What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matz here, your host show, Metro Scout Fantasy Football, and I've been combing through the ADP of May, trying to find us some values, some guys to talk about for this month that we can trade for. I got 2 videos in the archives for wide receivers and running backs. If you want to check those out, go right ahead. But today I'm going to be talking about the tight ends. Tight end is not a position I like to talk about much because I don't value it too heavily. A tight end 1 doesn't really mean much. If you're in the top 5, top 3, then that's good to go. But usually the back half of a T1, the top 12, isn't that great. A lot of times on a week-to-week basis, the tight end 12 is lucky to score 10 PPR fantasy points, and the ambiguity at this position is quite large. Upside is value pretty much at this position. Stability is value, and tight end is just a windfall of craziness from week to week. But in this video, I'm going to give you 3 tight ends that you can try and trade for in Dynasty right now. First tight end I'm going to be talking about today, he's the cheapest one that is going to be on today's list. And he used to be a Devy dandy, and he was considered the top tight end in college football, especially from a Devy fantasy football perspective, for quite a bit before Kyle Pitts took over that throne. During his rookie season, he's shown some flashes. He's shown some ability to be able to make some plays happen, to become a fantasy asset. And I'm talking about Brevin Jordan, tight end from the Houston Texans. He is dirt cheap, especially in startup drafts. 221 ADP, being drafted as the tight end 29. So he's free. He might hold a little bit more value on the trade market, but he's going to be the team's tight end 1. He's going to be the lead dog there, or at least should be, projected to be. Target on 23.1% of his routes run, so that's pretty high for a tight end. Had a 71.4 catchable target rate last year, 9.8% target share. I can see that increasing as he gets more involved in the offense. Had a target share of 10% or more in 6 games. In 3 of those 10 games, he had a 14% target share or higher. So he is getting a large portion of the targets in the offense when he's on the field, when he's the guy at the tight end spot. The wide receiver depth chart in Houston's a little bit dicey. Brandon Cooks is good. He is rock solid, but he's not getting any younger. Nico Collins is interesting, but he's not proven. John Mechie, a rookie, but injured, coming back from that ACL. So there's a lot of opportunity here in the offense. Houston's not a target for many fantasy gamers, as we can see from his ADP, and there's a chance that he may not transition well into his second season, but he's dirt cheap. If you're in a startup draft, he might be a guy you want to look at. He may be a guy you want to try and trade for. I think his value on the trade market might be more than what's going on in startup drafts right now. I feel like if he was on my roster, it would cost a little bit more for me to deal him away. So you may have to pay up a little bit more for him, especially if that manager's depleted at tight end. But there are also other managers in other leagues who might give him away to you for a cheaper pick. And there's some upside here. He was very talented at the collegiate level, fell in the draft, fell into the lap of the Texans, showed some promise as a rookie, so he's not really a face planter at all. There is some opportunity for him to succeed. As we look at this depth chart, we can develop a story of how he can get some targets, how he can be one of the top pass catchers in the offense here. So that's good to go. He has good efficiency metrics, has some production. We just need a larger sample size of production before we can stamp our name on him. 221 ADP, getting drafted in no man's land right now. Tight end 30 off the board pretty much. You can't really take on any risk here. He's dirt free. He's cheap. Might as well. Let's see what happens with Brevin Jordan. The second tight end I'm going to talk about today is another prospect, another young tight end who has a lot of upside, who has a lot of potential, whose situation is pretty tricky. There's some things that could cause his fantasy production to go south on us, but there's also some things in his offense that could allow it to exceed expectations, which is good to know. And I like his athleticism. One of the top tight ends when it comes to size adjusted speed. And that could allow us to have a tight end prospect that hits on us sooner than later. We just got to see if he takes that step forward in his development. The tight end I'm talking about is Alberto for the Denver Broncos. Right now, he has an ADP of 126.5, so being drafted around the 125 range overall in startup drafts, being drafted as the tight end 12. So he's holding some decent value here, being drafted as a low-key tight end 1. So he is semi-expensive, but he's getting drafted in an area where there's just not much on the board. Things are starting to fade off. Noah Fant's gone, but Greg Dulcich is in, so he may be a buy because he's dirt cheap as well. He was targeted on 29.9% of the routes that he ran, 2.46 yards per route ran, 90% catchable target rate. So if the ball's around him, he's bringing it in. And this dude's oozing with upside, size adjusted speed for days, can get downfield. Russell Wilson's now at quarterback. He may decide to just sling the rock to him. Albert O has some history in his offense. He has some history with Denver. He's not transitioning. He may just start things off as the tight end 1. Greg Dulcich might have to just sit back, take a seat, and do his own developmental process while Albert O proves himself. And by the efficiency metrics here, he's proven that he could do something. He's proven that he can run routes, catch the ball, do a little something, and if he does that with Russ, we could get a decent tight end with some production here, may exceed expectations. On the trade market, a lot of people like him. He's kind of like the underground Dynasty fantasy football dandy, so I could see him holding value more than what you see. Probably the cheapest way to get him is in startup drafts. I can also see him being sold as a quick sell for some people if they're scared of Greg Dulcich. So that's something you may want to capitalize on as well. 126 overall ADP doesn't mean he's super expensive, but he's not super cheap either. Keep that in mind. But I want to give you a tight end that's dirt cheap, a tight end in the middle, and now I want to go over my next tight end who's kind of expensive or very expensive, but this guy has a lot of upside. He's dripping with athleticism. He's got that draft capital drip on him. Has made big plays, especially during his rookie season. And now we just need him to churn out a little bit more production. We need him to start being more efficient, start bringing it home for us. But everything's there. And I feel like even though he's expensive, you got to mortgage your house to be able to trade for him. I still feel like there is room for growth here. I feel like he's still being undervalued a little bit. So he's an expensive player that still can give you some ROI when you draft him. And I'm talking about him because I looked at the ADP and I was like, man, he could be a little bit higher. He could be a little bit higher. And I'm talking about Kyle Pitts, tight end of the Atlanta Falcons. This is going to be an easy sell for you guys, mainly because he was the first tight end drafted last year, had a good season, still only 21 years old, over 1,000 yards during his rookie season, a 28.3 share of the air yards, 20.3% target share. That's as a rookie for a tight end. He was targeted on 15.2% of his snaps, 2.2 yards per route run, and had a 79% catchable target rate. That's solid for a rookie tight end. You rarely get those numbers at all for a rookie. That's solid, and there's more upside for him to capitalize on. Right now, his ADP is at 6.67, 6th to 7th player overall on average in rookie drafts. Tight end 1, obviously. But the 6.67, I believe, is a discount. I believe it's a discount because there is still some uncertainty that some gamers have with him. But I feel like he should be valued along those top assets. One, due to the running back reset we're about to hit, it's going to be hard to want to invest in some of these top running backs, especially once those 24-year-old running backs 2 years from now are now like 26-year-olds. Those 25-year-olds are going to be a little older in a couple years. And it's going to flip. It's going to flip, and it's going to be hard to invest in running backs. Wide receivers deep to where, like, if you wanted to, you could fade the position a little bit and play best ball with them, have a good core, and just really work the air yards, target share from a week-to-week basis. And that adds a premium to what I see in Kyle Pitts' stock, because there are not many 21-year-old tight ends out there who can be productive, hold a large target share, and has a long outcome for his career. We have that with Kyle Pitts. I could see him being drafted 4 overall, 3 overall, something like that. I think I'd rather have Jonathan Taylor over him, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. After that, there's a big conversation. Huge conversation, because things start getting a little dicey at running back. Things start getting a little dicey at wide receiver, and you may want to go Pitts, and you may want to mix Pitts into that big 3 that I just talked about. I don't care if you want to. Let me know in the comments what you think about Kyle Pitts. This dude ran a 4.49 40-yard dash at 245 pounds, 98th percentile, size-adjusted speed score, can get downfield, has proven you can make plays, had a good rookie season, and the offense is changing. The quarterback's changing. There is some ambiguity here with this offense that could flip his stock on his head, but nonetheless, we have a premium prospect that is sometimes falling a little bit in that first round of startup drafts that you can get. If you're going to trade for him, you're going to have to pay up. You're going to have to pay up. Whoever drafted him wanted him, and a lot of people traded up in rookie drafts last year, mortgaging their future to get this guy. So more than likely, you're not going to be able to get a deal with him unless he starts off slow this season or an injury happens or something like that. But there's going to have to be a situation that impacts his stock. But Kyle Pitts has a lot of potential to become a top tier, or is already, but he has the potential production-wise to be a top tier asset in fantasy football. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who are you buying at tight end? What do you think about these dudes? Brevin Jordan, I think he's very interesting, especially at his price points. Drop it like it's hot in the comments. Smash that like button. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, go ahead, because I got a lot more Dynasty fantasy football content coming at you. Season's coming up, so in-season is going to be very critical for you setting lineups and everything else. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.